Hello, everyone. We're going to be covering Chapter 2 with this lecture. The title of it is The Announcer as Communicator. And some of the things that I want to talk about before we actually get into the chapter is that being an announcer is more than just being able to read. It's more than just being able to say words clearly. You have to actually be able to understand what you're saying and actually communicate that understanding to the person. And and also as announcers, it's not just all reading. There's other variations to that. So let's go ahead and get started. So title of the chapter, Chapter 2, Announcer as Communicator. Let me adjust this. Okay. So, some of these performances, as I said before, is not just reading. Sometimes you're ad-libbing. Sometimes you don't have you're reading copy or a script that you've had maybe 2 seconds with. So, yeah. Anyway, let's go over some of those differences. So, when you're ad-libbing, you're basically improvising spontaneously. Sometimes you'll see this maybe as a question gets asked of maybe two anchors are talking after a story. That may be a lot of times they'll say, oh, well, they'll arrange it with each other and say, okay, well, we'll do a little bit of happy talk or whatever after this. Or sometimes the anchors will be talking and say something to the weather guy before he starts his segment that has to do with maybe something that occurred. So, and that weather person may have to just think of something right off the cuff. So that's definitely ad-libbing. Yeah, most times it's somewhat, at least in broadcast news, in a professional environment, they'll tell maybe a reporter on the scene or whoever that, okay, yeah, we're going to do a little questions and I may ask you a little bit about this or that. So, but just a truly random question, it does happen. So sometimes, yes, people do have notes. So what that means is a reporter may have some additional information. Sometimes they'll arrange it to where that they'll say with the anchor, okay, when we come back, you can ask me, a little bit about this or that. So they'll have maybe a little bit of additional information that they may want to put out there after they do their story, where they were, say, live on the scene. And yeah, impromptu, little or no preparation. So that's ad-libbing from notes and impromptu speaking are pretty similar. Impromptu, yeah, it's very similar in the fact that you may get told, okay, with, I don't know, a few minutes notice that, okay, let's also try to address this or that. Or if maybe you have some class debate and maybe you're on the pro for this or con against whatever, you may have maybe 5 minutes to get your argument together. So yeah, that's not a lot of preparation, but it's still more than just being immediately asked a question and you have to respond. So reading from cold copy. Copy is another name for script. So that means you haven't seen that until you actually get it. So usually this happens with breaking news. So, and I've been in that situation when something actually occurs, say during a show, I find out about it. Well, back when I was a producer, I find out about it and I write something up, and depending on how late in the show it is, it may not even have time to be able to put it in the teleprompter. So it may actually literally be a sheet of paper with information written on it. So yeah, that's tough, and you you can kind of tell when sometimes an anchor has just been handed something. So they'll usually make a note of it that, okay, we just got this. It's not like they'll just say, oh, and by the way, blah 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 blah. So no, that you can usually tell that that there's a little bit more effort. One, because they haven't read it before, and two, they want to call attention that hey, I just got this too. So with cold copy, it's not fun. And most of the times in broadcast areas, whether it's radio or television, with the script is usually read with preparation. So I know for broadcast news, depending on the station where I worked at, some of them we'd have to have the scripts printed an hour before the show. Some places allow you to wait up until 30 minutes before the show before you actually print the scripts. So the actual script that anchors are going to be reading from. So and the directors are using the switch cameras and all that kind of stuff. So there is time to prepare, and it's not just that 30 minutes. Usually with whatever new software everyone can see the script before actually seeing the hard copy. So that can be hours and hours before a newscast. So most of the time there is preparation, and there's time to mark the scripts, which we'll talk about in just a moment. So with the communication, like I said before, it's not just reading words, and with the copy, the main thing is, okay, it's not just the script. If you have a script that's well written and whatnot, but it doesn't convey the idea or the information that it's meant to convey, then it's not a successful script. It's not a good script. Also with the announcers, if you just saw the words, sometimes just the just reading something versus hearing something. Let's say poetry, for example. If you were reading a poem, you may have a different take on it than if someone actually said the poem to you. Maybe the speed at which they say certain things, or the loudness, or certain ways that they may say one part of the sentence more intense, or get kind of a hushed tone at another point. So you get a better feel for what the poem is actually saying by hearing the poet or someone recite it, rather than if maybe you just read it in your mind silently. So like I said, yes, you do want to be competent at reading, but just not stumbling over the words, that's not all there is to it. So so when you're speaking, it's not just saying words, it's how you use your voice, how you use your face, maybe the mannerisms that you use. All of those things are part of that communication. Kind of like if you could tell, maybe someone could say some words, but maybe the way that their face looks, or the way they move their hands, or maybe they're clapping their hands when they talk, or whatever, that all that goes into that communication. So it's not just the words. And I'm trying to think of an example. I don't know how many of you have had this experience, but I know early on growing up, going to church and having or Bible study or whatever, if you've ever had the experience where you had to read the Bible in front of people, especially the King James Version, sometimes, just from my personal experience, and maybe someone else out there can relate to me, you don't know what you're saying. At some point, you just try not to mess up. You don't even know what you're saying, and the these and the thous and all that other stuff. And by the time you get done, it's like, did I get away with it? Because I'm just trying not to say the words, forget the commas and the periods. I'm just going, and it's like, y'all get something from that? So that's not effective communication. That's just trying to get through it. So I don't know if many of you can relate to that, but maybe that may be something to help you guys understand that it is more than just saying the words. So now, interpreting copy, interpreting the words that are in front of you. So this is one thing that I usually tell practicum students or students that have taken script writing from me. If you're reading information and you don't understand it, and it's something that you need to adjust to give to an audience, if you don't understand it, your audience isn't going to understand it too. One of the reasons because you don't understand it, and also the way you write it, because if you write from a place of not understanding, then it's harder to have other people understand it as well. But if you do understand it, there may be some things that you want to emphasize, maybe something you want to state a little bit differently. Then, yeah, so just understanding it. But anyway, didn't want to get too much into that. But yeah, obviously read it before you deliver whatever it is. So if as long as it's not some last minute, late breaking, 10 seconds left in the show types of information. So one of the quotes that I really enjoy from the textbook, you guys can read, but I'm gonna go ahead and read it for you. No matter how beautiful your voice may be, how rapidly or accurately you can read the copy, not a good announcer unless you communicate the ideas as they were conceived by the writer. So with the writer of the script, someone may read it, but if they sound like they're lost as they're going through it, or the way that they, I don't know, maybe they're just putting some inflections at the end of their voice on something that shouldn't be a question. You didn't convey what the writer was intending for you to convey when you went through that script. So, yeah, that's one of my favorite quotes of the chapter. So, with understanding the copy, it's more than just, okay, do I know what this word means? So, part of it is overall, what is this trying to say? Okay, so is this trying to say, I don't know, smoking bad? Okay, overall, okay, negative view of smoking, general, it would be more of a general meaning. Specific purpose may be okay. I don't know, maybe makes your clothes smell a certain way, whatever. General mood, happy, sad, whatever. And changes in mood, yeah, is there more than one emotion that's needed? So I am going to go into more detail, so don't think that that's just the whole thing right there. So with identifying the general meaning, so for example, one thing that I have here, dangers of smoking. So smoking, dangerous. That's, think caveman talk, okay? That at this point, just, do I understand overall, is this good, bad? Do I like this? I don't know. You should be able to know that if you're reading a script. If you can't, then, might want to ask maybe the writer a few questions, or go look up some of those words that you may not understand that are in the script. So also with when you are going through script, you need to know how to pronounce all the names, all the words. So, and even if you're not sure, I'd say this, but even if you're not sure, pick a way that you're going to say it and then say it. And also writing things out phonetically. So what phonetically means is how the sounds actually sound. So so this word right here, parentheses. So there's very little way that you can misinterpret that. P-H, ren is where the emphasis is. That's why it's kind of in all caps. Ren, like, you got that. It's not T-H-E or anything like that. The or the whatever. And then C's. So with this, you can easily remember, okay, this is how I'm supposed to say this person's name. Even though you haven't learned this word yet in this, it's going to come up in this chapter. you may have an idea of, think about how this is pronounced. So you either had Vergules or Vergules, okay? So the actual correct pronunciation is Vergules. So if you had that, you were right. So not a lot of different ways that this word this word could go. So, and it indicates a pause, if you're wondering. We'll get to that in just a moment. So, the specific purpose. So, general meaning is like, okay, not sure of what all this person is saying, but from what I get, smoking is bad. I think that's what they're trying to say. Okay, that's general meaning. General meaning. Specific purpose. How is it bad? Okay, well, okay. The precise message that this commercial, PSA, whatever it wants to say, hurts blood circulation. So it's not talking about clothes. It's not talking about lung stuff. It's not talking about how much cigarettes cost per year. None of that. It's blood circulation. So general meaning, okay, smoking bad. More specific thing, hurts blood circulation. That's more specific. So in these sentences below, and sentences can be read in different ways depending on their purpose. So so let's say if you put emphasis on the underlined parts, okay? So if someone's like, say, looking around and they look at you and say, someone is about to get kicked out of class, well, then you may be thinking, okay, they're really emphasizing that, and maybe they're trying to say that, okay, it's me, okay? Or or maybe trying to put people on edge with the whole someone. Now, in the next sentence, someone's about to get kicked out of class. Now, maybe they might get asked to get out of class. They may be, or maybe forcibly removed. So, this, if you put more emphasis on that, is more about the manner in which the person has to leave the class, rather than, okay, being asked, forcibly removed, whatever. So, having emphasis on those two different things. Okay, one emphasize who, the other one emphasize more how. So, anyway, let me check on this stream, make sure it's doing well. Okay. Okay, so where was I? So with the general mood, hold on, let me make sure I can. All right, with the general mood, it's how you're gonna say it. Are you gonna say it like you're angry? Are you gonna say, is this supposed to be a lighthearted thing? Is this supposed to be a question? So with these particular things, you need to know that kind of mood, because if you're questioning something, even if you say, I don't know, we're going to rallies, okay, that's just a declarative sentence. But if you have a little inflection at the end, we're going to rallies, so then that's supposed to be, question, maybe sarcastic. Going to rallies, then more sarcastic or gloomy. We're going to rallies. Same thing, just different mood. So now I know with news, it's not the, you're not going to be like, okay, feel this way or whatever. But you got to at least understand that, hey, if you're talking about, a tragedy, you don't need to be having a smile on your face. You don't need to be talking about it as if, I don't know, the Hogs or whatever team it is, that's popular around you, won, a big game. So that's a different mood than if you're talking about something that's I want to say that's a tragedy. Okay, so with these, the mood of script is going to influence, how that announcer reads it. So, and these are some examples, attitudes of announcers, and there's plenty more out there. You see them: serious, somber, sad, light, whatever. So, moving on. So, now with this mood and this, the mood stuff doesn't just apply for Anchor. I mean, this could be for reporters, or if you're doing public service announcement. So, or as a reporter doing a news package, a minute 30 long news package. You're not going to have the same mood the entire minute and a half. So, which brings me to this next point, the changes in mood. So the longer the script, the more likely there will be good news, bad news, confusing news. Oh, this didn't go as planned, or yay, this, they, got what they wanted, whatever. So, in broadcast news, you can have scripts as short as 15 seconds. So in that 15-second script, you're not going to have a lot of time to go from sad to happy to whatever, okay? But in, say, a reporter package, which is usually a minute 30, you've got time for that. So, and then you're telling the complexities of the story. It's not maybe some backstory, whatever. So with all those things, it's going to have a different change, different change in mood. So how something started out great for this person, but then, unexpectedly, without any warning, and then going on to something else. So that has a different mood to it. So, yeah. Oh, of course, mood changes with different stories. So I'm sure you may have seen some type of joke where an anchor is doing some type of sad story, and then they turn, they're like, blah, 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 in other news, pandas born at the city zoo, or whatever. So that does happen, and I wouldn't blame the anchor. I'd blame the producer who shaped that show, because putting such, a light story right next to a sad story is not a good way to shape a newscast. I'm stop ranting, but also you'll notice that one thing that I was taught when I was a producer, using weather to be a palate cleanser. So you go from bad news story, then okay, go to weather. Let's get let's change focus, go to weather, and then if you want to go to a story with a different different mood, it's a little bit easier. So weather's like that. I was gonna say the rinse and spit at the dentist's office, which I don't even know if that makes any sense. With water, whatever. Where was I? Okay, so yeah, different moods. Different moods change with the story, say in a newscast, or radio broadcast. Some of the words that are used when transitioning, meanwhile this happened, or in other news, or if you're going to a lighter story on a lighter note, blah 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 blah. So yeah, those are some ways to to just not just blindly and have a stark change in mood and just pretend like what I said was completely meshes with whatever came after it. All right. So, punctuation in scripts. So in broadcast news, there's not a lot of punctuation. So either the commas and the semicolons and the I don't know whatever else. There are a few that you need to know, but also there's marks that you may need to know when even marking your script. But periods, certain things like when you're normally writing, there may be things that have the periods in between it, but things that like FBI or FEMA or UPS, things where it's so commonly known by its acronym. With those, you don't have to use periods for those, so you shouldn't see those in scripts. Something that isn't really used in broadcasting, I discourage my students from using it, is the comma. Sometimes you'll see it. You may need to just transcribe it to, the ellipses, which we'll talk about in just a moment. But it still indicates a slight pause, question mark. I don't even think you guys understand question mark, so I wouldn't, usually comes at the end of the sentence. I'm not going to say anything else about that. Now, quotation marks, indicates a quote. So, depending on the station or the company, sometimes quotation marks do get used, but yeah, it just depends on where you are. Sometimes they'll make a note to and he said quote blah 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 end quote. So it just depends. So parentheses. Now, when you see parentheses in a broadcast script, that means usually you don't say this. This is just additional information. So something may be on the script to say between one story and another, turn to camera 3. So that doesn't mean you say turn to camera 3. It just means that that's what you do next. Or in parentheses, it may say back on camera, or it may have it in brackets or whatever. Just let you know that okay, you're not on camera at this point, but now you're back on camera. So. Or it may say the name of a particular part of the set. So some stations they want maybe a story read at the desk, or maybe they have like some type of monitor where people stand to introduce stories, so it may give you that type of instruction. Ellipses. So ellipses are 3 dots. Three looks like periods. Now, with ellipses, use them in place of commas, use them in place of colons, use them in place of semicolons. Basically, if you need a pause, use an ellipses. Also, sometimes ellipses can indicate an omission of words. Now, you're thinking, why would we have an omission of words? Okay, well, for example, if there's a soundbite, which is basically like a quote, for those of you who may not be familiar with the television terminologies. But when you get an excerpt from an interview response with someone. So in some TV stations, you have to write that out word for word. So even if while that's playing and the anchor is just sitting at the desk, watching that sound on tape or that soundbite play, they know when it's almost over what's going to be the last thing that's said. Okay, but sometimes they just have the first couple of words of that soundbite, and then they'll just have a ... and then they'll have like maybe the last few words of what this person said in the interview. So you still kind of get an idea of what it's supposed to be without actually having your poor producer or whoever wrote the story write out the entire quote. So yeah, I already said replaces commas, dashes, semicolons. And one thing that they say in the textbook is that ellipses also, I think they said, used as a period or at the end of a sentence. No. If you do any course with me where we have to write scripts, no, you're using periods at the end of a sentence. So yeah, I do disagree with the textbook on that part. So anyway, so talked about punctuation. Let's talk about a little bit about marking copy. So what marking copy is when the announcer gets a script and they read through it, but they see, okay, well, I may have problems with this word, or I need to make sure that I slow down when I say this, or I need to put a lot of emphasis or kind of raise my voice when I say this particular word. So that's something very personal and peculiar. So, well, definitely personal. So you can't have someone else mark your script. Now, sometimes you may write in a way that is easier for whoever's going to be reading it. But as far as marking the copy and knowing how something's going to translate in someone's mind, or what they may need to, you told them 10 times how to say this name, but they still don't get it. Well, maybe the announcer may, and you think, the writer may think, okay, they should have it by now, but the announcer doesn't have it, then they could, maybe write out that name in phonetic spelling. So now some other that virgule thing that we talked about. It's when marking copy. Okay, you can use that as like a comma or a way to slow down. Okay. That doesn't mean that it's going to end up in a teleprompter or on a printed script, because we're not using virgules, we're using ellipses, like I said last slide. So, it just basically lets you know that, okay, I need to slow down, or I need to really slow down at some point in the script. Underlining, just showing emphasis on a particular word. Sometimes you probably have taken a Spanish class. In Spanish writing, you've got the question mark, the upside down question mark at the beginning of the sentence. Well, you don't have to do it upside down, but sometimes announcers do. If something is a question, they'll have that question mark at the beginning of the sentence, because it's kind of, sometimes it may be I'm not gonna say a long sentence, but reading from teleprompter, sometimes you may not get, as you start reading, the whole sentence may not show on screen, and you've got however many stories to read during a newscast, and you're not going to remember every single thing. So it'd be bad when you're reading something and then you get to the end and you realize, oh, it's a question. Then your intonation comes up and it just seems kind of it seems awkward, off, weird, whatever you want to say. So in their script, which the anchor does have hard copy, and they kind of keep up with the story. So that's why you see them sometimes looking, directly in the teleprompter, but you see them flipping pages, because they know that, okay, I'm on to the next story, and if they need to look down, they already have their place, and they've also got their scripts marked, so they can look down just briefly in between story, maybe see a key piece of copy that was marked, some key virgule or underlined thing, and be ready for, or have that refreshed in their mind when they read that story. So, with the upside down, with the question mark at the beginning of the sentence, it just lets you know that, okay, just a reminder that, hey, this needs to be read this particular way. So, let's say another little inside thing about scripts. With the way broadcast scripts are written, at the end of the sentence, the period, you press enter and you go down to the next sentence. So some of you may be wondering, wouldn't people get confused because there's the end of a sentence, a period, question mark, and then maybe like, well, maybe that's a typo. Well, here's the reason why the whole question mark thing can work at the beginning, is because after every sentence, you're supposed to press enter when you're writing a broadcast, official broadcast script. So every beginning of the sentence starts, on its own line. Okay, so that way that if you're looking at your copy and you just look down, there's going to be a question mark right at the that you've written, if you're marking your copy, at the beginning of that line, so that sentence has a question. So it's not like halfway through a line, there's a period, question mark, and you have to be able to get that right. No, so that's why that can work out. So, in case you were thinking about that. So, things to help you announce better. I tell any students that worked with me, in front, doing stuff in front of the camera, if you're going to read a script out loud and in front of people, you need to practice it as well. So, just going over it, maybe mumbling it or just thinking about it, that doesn't help you with your breathing. That doesn't let you know, okay, sometimes just by reading a sentence out loud, it lets you know, hey, this thing is way too long, or you may want to go to whoever wrote it and we may need to want to adjust this. So, or it just may not make sense when you actually say it out loud. So that's why it's good when you if you're going to be doing something, if you're going to be doing it out loud for people, then that's how you need to practice. Also, things that help you announce better: being interested in your material, or getting yourself kind of, I don't say psyched, but you can't just be in there ho hum. You have to at least try to be interested or be curious about it, or maybe there's a certain aspect of it that you like. Whatever it is, that still comes through. So, yeah. Now, talking to your listener. Now, with this, these are questions that you can ask that can help you speak better to your listener. So, who are you? Are you someone who has authority when you speak? Or are you someone who doesn't really know what they're talking about, but they're, excuse me, may I say this, please, type of person, So, also, who are you talking to? Is this supposed to be for little kids, or is this supposed to be for retired military? So you're not going to talk to those same people the same. How many people am I talking to? So it's like, hey guys, I know this seems crazy, but whatever. That's for more than one person. That's not like a person to person conversation. So also, age, kind of talked about that as well, between talking to little kids where you may have to explain something. So, I don't know, whatever. Something that you may end up explaining something that you normally wouldn't explain to an older person. Also, where are you as you speak? If you're, now you're thinking, okay, what does broadcast news have to do with this? Well, this isn't broadcast news. This may be maybe doing a radio announcement. Okay. So, the audio really matters in this. So maybe you're in a loud place. If you're in a loud place, you're going to talk like this because that's how people talk when they're in loud places. So, but if you're just, in somewhere with, with a mic to your shirt, you can talk a little bit more normally. Yeah. Let me make it. Sorry. My computer did something. Okay, sorry about that. Where am I? Okay, so yeah, or if it's supposed to be in a library, or if it's something that you don't want a lot of people to hear, then you may talk a little bit differently. I hope you guys heard that. All right, so moving on. Now, when ad lib announcing, almost done. So when you ad lib, of course, you're improvising. You're not just giving some type of written presentation. So, but there are ways that you can get better at that. So, one, if you know what you're talking about, if there's any way that it can stay within the realm of whatever it is that you do know, then you'll do a lot better. You'll have more confidence, and that will show when you're speaking. Also, being interested in what you're saying, that energy, people can tell when you don't want to be there. So sometimes, I don't know, maybe you've had it back when there was in-person classes, where you can tell like someone just doesn't want to be there. Maybe it's the student, maybe it's the teacher, but you can tell, okay, this person really just doesn't want to be bothered today. They're just trying to, go through it, they get it done. Also, developing an attractive personality. Now, what does that mean? Be somebody else? Turn yourself into whoever? No, that's not what that means. So what it means is, one, you kind of have to know who you are. Now, hopefully you guys know that or getting, close to that. But also being okay with that and, kind of leaning into that. So, of course, be yourself. Don't try to be somebody else. So I remember some advice I was given with broadcast news a long time ago. Is like, when you're on camera, be yourself plus, like, I think they said like 10%, or I forgot what percent, but basically be yourself, but then like, maybe amplify it a little bit. So, and it's finding those things that work for you. Maybe you're funny. Okay. So, maybe if you can work that into that. Maybe you're good at telling stories or using metaphors. Well, this is like a box of chocolates or whatever. You're good at, you know, taking one thing and another thing and using a metaphor to, you know, try to work that in there if you can, if that's, you know, where you are strongest at. So yeah. One example I was going to give you guys before we wrap up this chapter is I don't know if you guys know of the actor Sterling K. Brown. He's on the show This Is Us. One of the things that, you know, he's kind of almost known for is that he's good at the almost crying look or crying on camera. He you know, here he is in This Is Us, about to cry. More This Is Us, about to cry. More. It seems like he almost cries every episode. Anyway, it's a show I watch. About to cry again. Here he is in Black Panther, you know, looking like he got his feelings hurt. Anyway, and this is him on Saturday Night Live, making fun, you know, about how, you know, sensitive he is on camera, and, you know, almost, you know, crying intentionally during his monologue. I suggest, you know, side note, I suggest you watch, you know, Sterling K. Brown SNL monologue. He really weaves in and out of the almost crying thing a lot. So, but he's gotten Golden Globes and all kind of awards and whatnot. You know, which, anyway, but the point is, he knows what works for him. So, no, you know, and it just comes with time, age, experience, feedback from other people about knowing what you are, you know, what works for you. So that is the end of chapter 2. Hope you guys have a good day, good week, good semester. All right.